Hello ladies and gentlemen, my name is Dan, aka Stout, and this is Stout Gaming. In this video, we're going to be going over the last week of the regular season for the Max Double League Pokemon VGC Draft League. In this matchup, to guarantee myself a bye in the playoffs, I had to do no worse than losing with a differential of -3. So if I won the match or lost with a differential of -1, 2, or 3, I'd be fine. And that was my mindset going in. So without any further ado, let's go ahead and get into the battle. So looking at my opponent's team, the thing I was most scared of from the beginning was a weakness policy Goodra next to Comfey, and I see that that is an option. I've got a couple ways to potentially deal with that. One is a Politoed lead to use Haze to immediately get rid of any boosts that the Goodra comes with. And the other is to try to overpower it with a Tapu Koko Thievul lead. And third potential option is also to go with Politoed Musharna, but for reasons that will be made clear later in this video. I decided to start this game with a Tapu Koko Thievul lead because the only real hard counter he has to the setup that I'm going for this week would be the Goodra and the Comfey getting something really hard set up. If he goes for something like Trick Room turn 1 with Comfey, I'm not as worried about it, but if he does go for that Draining Kiss, immediately proc a weakness policy, that could be an issue for me with this team setup. So I wanted something in the back that would allow me to clean up a few of the things that might slip through. The Landorus to hit stack attack seemed pretty important, and the Musharna as a counter for the Water Urshifu also seems like a very good add in this position. So looking at the battle beginning here, I am going to see that he is going to be leading with that Comfey Goodra that I was afraid of for game 1. So I'm feeling a little nervous here. Draining Kiss setup. It could get really bad if the weakness policy is on the Goodra instead of on the Moltres. And until I see otherwise, I'm going to assume that it is. But in this scenario, weakening the Goodra's attack with a Snarl and boosting defense on my team with a Max Steel Spike is the way to go. That basically covers for physical or special Goodra, and I always like hitting the Comfey in these kinds of setups, generally speaking, because if I hit the teammate and Comfey is able to heal it up with a +3 priority healing move, it doesn't really do much. So get rid of the Comfey and just try to snarl down the Goodra if he is going to be maxing it. Committing the Dynamax here does come with some risks. If that Goodra does get a boost, even with the Snarl, it'll still be +1 hitting into Tapu Koko, and that can do a chunk. It probably doesn't KO depending on its spread and moves, but it would still chunk. And then Goodra uses Protect, and I immediately feel great. I assume that Comfey is going for Trick Room here. I learned later it doesn't have Trick Room, so I'm not sure exactly what it was going for. Probably a Dazzling Gleam, maybe? In any case, if it had a Sash, I break the Sash. I know it doesn't have a Sash now after the match as well. But I'm feeling pretty good about this position because now I've got a super bulky Thievul and Tapu Koko with some physical bulk as well. The Thievul's defense is at +2 due to the Electric Seed, and I am running a physically defensive Thievul as well. So it should be able to body quite a few hits pretty nicely. And then Tangrowth comes out, and this is where this build is really going to excel that I have this week. For anyone who saw the video last week, Tangela gave me problems with Tapu Koko, but this week, not wanting to have the same thing happen, I've got physical Tapu Koko with Max Airstream, which really beats grass types pretty badly. And this Tangrowth is in for a bad day because I can just start howling up, because without a boost, the Goodra is much less scary, and if I start howling up and attacking into this Tangrowth, he's gonna have a rough outing. I didn't want to attack into the Goodra either in case it got misdirected, and I think the Tangrowth is actually the bigger threat to my team. Although given what I have in the back, it might not have been a bad idea to attack into the Goodra, as I'm pretty sure Landorus beats Tangrowth 1v1. But I do just want to start boosting up the Koko at this point, give it some attack boosts, give it some airstream boosts, and I see that here the Tangrowth has the Koba Berry to help reduce the damage it's going to be taking from these flying type moves. With that damage profile, I expect at +2 it's going to get a knockout, but I do know that that is pretty physically bulky, even with the Koba Berry from a +1 Tapu Koko using max airstream off of Brave Bird. So, Ice Beam here into Thievul. Thievul takes a bit on it, but honestly not that much. I don't really know what the plan is there. That move in general felt pretty weird to me. And I'm pretty sure Tangrowth gets knocked out to a +2 Brave Bird, and I know that he knows that as well. So here I'm going to go for the hard read into the Goodra, assuming that this Tangrowth is going to protect, and that will just about lock me up the game depending on what he has in the back, because Goodra's not going to have a fun time taking a +2 max airstream from a Tapu Koko physically. Especially if it's especially bulky Goodra. I learned afterwards that this is actually a very, very physically bulky Goodra as well, which makes that clean KO even more impressive. But again, it is a +2 Tapu Koko firing a base power 140 move, so it's gonna hurt. So depending on what he has in the back here, I'm going to outspeed everything now that I'm +2 with Tapu Koko and with Thievul. Thievul's technically probably closer to... Well, I've doubled its speed twice. Once with Unburden and once with +2. It's faster than everything in the game, and it's not really close. So, I later learned that this Urshifu is Scarfed, which presents a interesting conundrum, because if he gets a double protect off on the Tangrowth, then I could be in some trouble unless I attack into the Urshifu. But if I attack into the Urshifu and the Urshifu has Detect, then I'm in trouble because the Tangrowth picks up the KO on the Tapu Koko. I'm assuming that Tangrowth at this point is going to be the one that's more likely not to protect. I think Urshifu is more likely to protect because he'd be risking going for a double. This play maximized by odds of winning, although if he did go for the double and got it, I could be in a bit of trouble. Brave Bird recoil is going to take out the Koko because I just knocked out the Dynamax Pokemon with Brave Bird, but +3 Koko tends to do that. So now this Urshifu is alive, and that looks like it's going to pick up the KO on the Thievul, and it will after all 3 hits. So, knowing what I've got in the back, Musharna into Urshifu, it can't feel good for him. I'll put it like that. I still don't know that this Urshifu is Scarfed because the speed boosts on the Koko and the Thievul don't let me see that, and the damage calc, it could be sashed. I'll put it like that because of the damage calcs. So I struggle a bit with this move here because the Musharna has telepathy, so Earthquake wouldn't hit it. I could go for just Earthquake here, and then Psychic, assuming that Psychic takes it to Sash. That way, no matter what he KOs, because he's not going to be able to KO the Musharna, if he does KO the Landorus, then the Musharna will get 2 Psychics in, which is a definite KO. Or I could go for a Fly, assuming that he does go into a Musharna. This would give me a second hit that's likely to knock him out. I think the best play here actually would have been Psychic plus Earthquake, because if he attacked into the Musharna and I flew and he had Detect, he could attack into the Musharna, not die if he's Focus Sashed, and then I'm in the air instead of attacking him to pick up the KO. And then the next turn with Fly, if he attacks into the Musharna and Fly misses, I lose. So this was probably a suboptimal play, but it's in my favor. Because even in that situation, if he detected instead of hoped that I went for the miss, I would have picked up the KO later. But let's go ahead and go to game 2. So in game 2, I wanted to meme a little because this was the last week of the season, and I actually thought it would be pretty good. This Politoed has Belly Drum on it, and Bounce and Liquidation as attacks, so that's pretty interesting. Politoed Musharna, because Musharna has Ally Switch to make it decent. Kabutops in the back with the Rain, just in case to clean up, and Landorus seems generally really good into his team. There's a lot that can go wrong with this lead. It's not my strongest lead, and in all honesty, like, leading Landorus, Politoed, or Politoed Kabutops, or Thievul, Koko again, are all probably stronger leads, and having Belly Drum on Politoed is probably not great, but the way that it matched up this week, it actually isn't just entirely me messing around and doing something bad. It did pick up calcs on his team, and he didn't have a really good way to deal with Politoed either. So I figured if I'm going to use Belly Drum Politoed, this is definitely the week to do it. So as we get into the battle, I see that he is going to be leading with Stack Attack and Tangrowth, and this feels like a Trick Room to me, which Politoed isn't the fastest Pokemon. It is the fastest Pokemon on the field currently. So I'm planning on Trick Rooming with Musharna again next turn. But what I assume will be happening here is a Grass-type attack going into the Politoed because he doesn't think anything can KO the Stack Attacker getting off a Trick Room. So Ally Switching the Musharna, so the Grass attack goes into the Musharna, and Belly Drumming the Politoed will allow me to start picking up KOs and playing Ally Switch mind games. Especially if I'm able to not Ally Switch, he predicts the Ally Switch, and I reverse the Trick Room that I'm pretty sure is coming this turn. So I think this is a decent position for me, but it's far from ideal, I'll put it like that. So the Ally Switch here makes sense. Belly Drum, let's get that boost off. At this point, I messaged him on Discord, just said, "Fear the Frog." You know, once again, for memes. Citrus Berry, and then I see Sleep Powder, which targeted the Musharna slot, and I'm very sad. The Politoed is all boosted up. It was going to start just Liquidation, and it was going to have fun, and he took the fun away from the Frog. So Toxic is obviously just very mean in this position, because we should let the Frog have fun. Hashtag free the Frog. But here, Helping Hand and Ally Switch don't really accomplish much. Trick Room to reverse Trick Room seems decent, and I guess I burn a turn of sleep here. Honestly, this doesn't feel like a great position for me, because if he just sleep powders into the Musharna slot, I'm in for a pretty bad day if Musharna gets sleep powdered here. So we get a max here on the Stack Attacker. I have a feeling this is going to start doing some major damage, but I don't actually think it can pick up a KO in the current board place, because this is a really bulky Musharna and Politoed. So we'll see if it's able to pick up a KO. It does change the weather, which is annoying for the Kabutops in the back, but it does not pick up a KO, and I'm happy with that. And then Energy Ball here shows me this thing is special. That doesn't pick up a KO either. Sand damage is going to be a little annoying, but nothing awful, and I'm able to reverse the Trick Room. And now the Stack Attack is maxed, so it can't Trick Room again. So if I can just sack these two, I'm okay with it, and playing with what I have in the back and hope that that's enough. So here, I don't really see Psychic doing much into anything here, so I'm just going for the 33% chance of a one-turn wake-up. Helping Handing into the Politoed, and then Liquidation into the Stack Attacker to chunk it. Without being in the rain, even with Helping Hand, this probably doesn't pick up the KO unless he is running a super low defense variant of the Stack Attacker and I get a high roll. But it will chunk him if I wake up, and I feel like chunking the Stack Attacker is the play here. I Helping Hand into a sleeping Pokemon, and then Politoed wakes up and launches a +6 Liquidation. Like I said, I'm not going to pick up the KO without being in the rain, but that's a lot of damage to Stack Attacker, and even if it does have the Ground Resist Berry, which makes a lot of sense against my team, Landorus can pick up the KO on it, and there's not a lot that he can do to stop it because Trick Room isn't up. So, while he has 4 Pokemon left and I have 2 Pokemon left, depending on what he has in the bag, I'm not in the worst position in the world here. And then I see the Beast Boost here, gives him a defense raise, so he isn't running the 17 defense IVs and the min defense nature to give him an attack raise. So, all in all, I don't feel awful about my position considering I'm 2 Pokemon down and I was running Belly Drum Politoed that didn't pick up a KO. Obviously, being in rain would be better for the Kabutops in this situation, but it's faster than everything on the field, and I see right here that this that the Stack Attacker is running White Herb, which means it's not running a Ground Resist Berry, which means max Earthquake into that slot is pretty free, and I've just got to protect on the Kabutops because a Grass Attack into it obviously sucks. And then when I'm able to protect on the Kabutops here, even if the Stack Attacker protects the next turn, it does suck because I probably lose the Kabutops the next turn unless I get a flinch on Rock Slide. But I do get a guaranteed KO on this Stack Attacker next turn as well, even if it does max guard here. And honestly, because I know of the Cobra Berry, max Airstream doesn't make the most sense in the world onto the Tangrowth right here. So Protect comes out, Max Quake comes out, no max guard, Stack Attacker is gonna die. Get my special defense boost, which is really nice because this team is very specially focused based on what he brought. Like, it doesn't help against the Urshifu, but it does help against Moltres and Goodra, which are scary. And then he attacks into the Protect here. And now I've got decisions to make that Goodra's coming out. Goodra, I don't think picks up a KO on Kabutops without a boost. And I know Tangrowth does. But I also sort of expect Sleep Powder into Landorus. I am Safety Goggles, so I'm not worried about it. But I feel like that might be an optimal play to try and wait out this Landorus boosting up, knowing that you can survive one turn of attack here. But this Goodra does make me nervous, but I am, after this max Airstream, going to be back to having the 2 fastest things on the field for the rest of the game, unless the Urshifu is Scarfed. But even then, I'm going to have time to launch one more max Airstream because nothing's dying this turn, and then I will have the 2 fastest things on the field. So, that's a very bulky Tangrowth. Even with the Cobra Berry, that didn't do a lot, but it should pick up the KO next turn with the chip damage that comes from these Rock Slides. I don't know what that is as this item's going off, and then I see it's Key Berry to raise the defense. Now that's a really bulky Goodra, but a Hydro Pump, which it hits neutral into Kabutops in the sand, doesn't do a lot. And then the Tangrowth flinches. It was probably trying to pick up the KO into the Kabutops. I don't really know, so that's a little fortunate. but it was the play I was going for. And then I've just got to go for chip and flinch plays, boost my speed again to make sure I outspeed Urshifu if it comes out. And that's basically my game plan here. So Airstream into the Tangrowth is able to pick up the KO. And now at this point, a single target Rock Slide, even though it will be at +1 defense, is still going to do enough to the Goodra that it's not going to threaten me the last turn of the game. So here I know a double attack will take it out, and it has Ice Beam. He probably should have Ice Beamed the Landorus last turn as well instead of going for the Hydro Pump into the Kabutops. I don't really know what the purpose was behind that play, but now Moltres comes out, and because Moltres is out, I've just got to go for a double Rock Slide. So 2 Rock Slides hitting this Moltres from a Landorus and a Kabutops should take it out most of the time, and that will also take out Goodra. I expect that it does have a weakness policy as well. So the math here is I knew that there was a little more than a 70% chance that both Rock Slides would hit the Moltres. The Moltres, this is going to be a double protect turn, so I'm going to talk through my thought process in a bit more length on why 2 Rock Slides instead of trying to predict with a protect or something stupid. Well, actually, it's pretty easy to see why 2 Rock Slides, but the math behind why I felt confident here. 71 point something % chance that both Rock Slides hit the Moltres, which should pick up the KO. If weakness policy triggers, a +2 Moltres does have a good chance of KOing both of these, but there's also the 30% chance on just a single Rock Slide hit of getting a flinch, and if somehow Goodra or Moltres survives a double up, then they have to fade a 70% chance. They have to fade a 30% chance of flinching twice, which actually puts it still in their favor, because if both hit, that would mean I had a 51% chance of making them both flinch. But with a 70% chance, like, it's still in their favor not to flinch, but it doesn't really matter because they both connect on both and just pick up a double KO. So with that being said, good games to Toxic, and I will be back in 2 weeks for the first playoff match.